What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to my channel. How are you doing? If this is your first time here, welcome. In today's video, I'll be telling you about my first impressions about Canada. I just came to Canada recently. If you've not already seen the video before this one, I showed my flight from Japan to Canada. So if you want to see what it feels like or what it looks like traveling during a pandemic from one country to another, then I'll recommend that you watch. Or if you want to see what it feels like traveling with Air Canada, because I used Air Canada for both flights, then you should also check that. By the way, I didn't mention on that video, but my flight with Air Canada was really good. The food was good. Both flights I sat close to the window. There was a seat between me and the next person, which was really good. I don't know if I was just lucky, but I noticed that most people who were traveling separately, like who were not traveling with anyone, they had an empty seat between them. Moving on, bear in mind that I'm still in quarantine. I have not gone out, so my impression might change with time, but for now, this is how I feel about being in Canada so far. I lived in Japan for more than 5 years. I like to say I spent most of my adult life in Japan. I have a friend, each time I say this, she bursts out laughing. I don't know, but she just finds it funny. Most of my comparisons will be about Japan because that's where I'm just coming from. The very first thing is Canadians are chatty. Like, Canadians like to make small talk. Let me give you examples. I was at the airport. I went to the point where you can charge your phone. I realized that I did not have my charger in my personal bag. It was actually in my luggage. Anyway, I sat there. This lady comes, then she tried to connect her phone and the phone wasn't charging. I don't know what the problem was. And then she turns to me, she's like, "Hi, have you tried using this thing?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Because it's not working. I don't know why these things are not working." And then she just starts talking. And then I'm just looking at her like, what do I say? You know, like in Japan, first of all, no one will come to tell you that. Like if someone comes to use something and then they see that it's not working, they will just go. Or maybe they will try again, and then you probably tell them, sumimasen, something like that. Or excuse me, that's not working and all of that. Don't mind me, I keep looking at that because that's where the charging point is. But anyway, yeah, in Japan, like they will never turn to ask you about if something is working or not. So I found that really interesting. And then another episode was when I was still at the same spot because that was like just close to where the airline was boarding from. An announcement was made that they have a lot of bags on the space where they put the bags on the plane. And as such, those of us who were going to get in or who were going to board from that point in time, we might not have space to put our bags. They encourage that if you don't mind, you can put your bag as a checked bag instead. And then after the announcement, a guy that was sitting close to me, he just turned to me, "Excuse me, what did they say?" I was just like, oh, really? This is interesting. Like in Japan, what that person would do, they'll probably go to the airline and ask, like, or go to the staff of the airline and ask, like, what was the announcement you made? Like, they will not turn to some other person to ask. And it was pretty interesting. Like, he turned to me, I explained it to him, and then he was like, "I'm not sure, I'm going to check my bag." I was just like, wow, this is interesting. So anyway, for those 2 episodes, I just concluded that Canadians are chatty, or people in Canada are probably chatty. I don't know. But tell me, if you're living in Canada, what do you think? Do you think Canadians are chatty? Do you think people living in Canada are chatty? Or you just thought because it was at the airport, that's why people were chatting? Because, like I said, in Japan, people will not come to talk to you like that. Like in Japan, the only people who come to talk to you have junior high school students, elderly men and elderly women. Junior high school students, they've learned English, so the moment they just see you, they'll be like, "Hello." Elderly men and elderly women, elderly women can actually come to give you compliments. For elderly men, if they come to talk to you, best believe the conversation is going to be like, "Where are you from?" You always want to know your nationality, always want to know your country. Tell me, are people from your country chatty? My next impression it's not really an impression, but I mean, I just found it very interesting that I did not have to think about what I wanted to say before going to say. You know how in Japan the language is Japanese, and then sometimes you want to walk into an office or you want to walk into someone to ask a question, and then you briefly just make a conversation in your head just so that you know what you're saying. But I mean, in Canada, I don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's either English or French. These days, my French is really bad, but my English is still okay. I just go up to the person and ask, this is what I want, or that, and then I get it. I don't have to think of what I want to say. I don't have to process it for even a second or for even half of a second. I just go there and say it. So I find it really interesting. Like, to be honest, it's good to stay in a country where you don't have to speak a strange language or where you already know the language. Like, there's nothing that really stresses you. For example, if someone says something, you don't have to stretch your ears so much to hear, or you don't even have to worry about if you understood what they said or not, because it's a language that you can fully comprehend. So for that, I find it really interesting. Are you living in a country that speaks another language from the language you're used to? I'd love to know, how is it like speaking another language? In fact, how was it for you learning how to speak this language? And over time, would you rather stay in a country that speaks a language that you're familiar with, or you don't mind going to a country that speaks another language? The next thing I observed about Canada while I was at the airport is that they pronounce the words differently from the way it's spelled. For example, I landed at the capital city, but trust me, the way it's written out and the way it's pronounced is different. It's spelled Ottawa, right? But then I think they pronounce it like Orara. I don't know, but it was just strange for me. Like, yes, someone says Orara. So when I was at the airport and then they asked me my final destination, and then I'm like, Ottawa. They're like, huh? I'm like, Ottawa, huh? I'm like, Orawa. Yeah, so that whole thing. And then even a place like Toronto, the way they pronounce, like, I don't know if it's Toronto, is it Toronto or Toronto? Like, the pronunciation is completely different from the way it's spelled, or like Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan. Like, I don't know. I think I have to learn all of that, but it's pretty interesting to know that something is spelled one way and then it's pronounced another way. The last thing that I observed about Canada, or the last thing that I think about Canada from a new person's point of view, is the fact that Canada is darker than Japan. So I landed at the capital city, and I would expect that since it's the capital city, it should be really lit and all of that. But it was kind of dark, to be honest. Like, as I was moving through the city and then going to my final destination, I just realized that it was so dark. I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I mean, I've not gone to other parts of Canada, but I would expect that since this is like the capital city, it should be really lit. So I don't know, maybe it's just that city, or maybe it's that's how the whole place is. But from my point of view, I thought like it was really dark. I mean, if you go to Tokyo, like, lights are everywhere in your face. It's like Christmas, you know. But then in this case, I felt like it was really dark. Those are my first impressions about Canada. I don't know, maybe the moment I start going out, it's going to be a completely different experience for me. I'm going to probably contradict this point that I made, I don't know, but for now, these are my first impressions about Canada. If you have any question you want to ask me about quarantine, about my trip from Japan to Canada, about even life in Japan, I would love for you to leave it in the comment section, and then I'll definitely respond. If you're not already subscribed to this space, like, what are you waiting for? I'm going to be putting out amazing content on this channel. I'm going to be doing Vlogmas as well. So please subscribe so you don't miss out on all the good things that will be dropping on this channel. Thank you so much for staying tuned with me. See you in my next video. Goodbye. Yay! Rejoice with me. You know, it will be better to pop when we are together.